Today we're going to talk about proofreading strategies. These are tools that will help you in the final stages of editing, and they're important not only for the paper that you're turning in coming up, but any paper for any class that you'll be turning in the future. So we did talk about this before, where reading aloud is something that can be very helpful for you. Whether it's something that you do in a room by yourself, or you're just reading it to someone else so that they can hear it, it is going to help you find those mistakes that you tend to miss or skip over, because as you hear them aloud, it actually then makes more sense and you're hearing it, so you find those little mistakes. Okay. Another thing that you might want to focus on is looking at every word, so seeing every word. So there's a couple different ways in which you can do that. One being move a pen under each word as you read it. This forces you to focus on the individual words rather than unconsciously skipping over or filling in words, which is something that we tend to do a lot. Read backwards. I know this one sounds absolutely crazy to most people, but it actually works. This helps you to catch the spelling errors and typos because the sentences obviously don't make sense. So it's forcing your brain to not be able to fill in and correct it because it doesn't make sense the way you're reading it. At least once, you should be reading through your entire essay without stopping in order to hear it, to make sure that it sounds and flows right for that, checking for that cohesiveness. While reading back, mark places maybe that you want to go back to and revise them later. What we tend to do is we start reading through the paper, and then we stop because we find something we want to correct, and so then we stop and we correct that, and then 10 minutes goes by and we start to try to read it again, and now we've kind of lost our place, or we haven't gotten that whole cohesiveness and flow. So by reading through it once all the way through and just marking where you'll want to go back, it is very helpful for you. A couple of the tools that you can use that are available. This would be more focusing on Word. I don't know how much this actually applies to Google Docs because I'm not too familiar with it and I haven't used it much. But when you're in Word, you can use these specific tools. So the first one being Spellcheck. But of course, there's a couple things about it, little quirky things that you have to remember. So remember, if you're in Spellcheck, it's not going to catch the words that are spelled right. Okay, so for example, if you put from and you meant form, it's not going to find or correct that because it's still a correctly spelled word. Another example would be the there, and there. It's not going to, as long as you have spelled them all correctly, it's not going to tell you which one is the right one to be there. You also want to watch out for autocorrect. I think we've all seen this before on our phones where we have autocorrect and it changes a word to something that we clearly did not mean. So watch out for that because it may fill in that wrong word. Okay. The biggest example that I can give you here is what I see all the time, where you have or you're using the word definitely. And you're not quite sure how to spell it. And as we pronounce the word definitely, it does sound like there is an A in there, but there's not. So good old autocorrect will fix that and change it to defiantly, which is clearly a different word with a clearly different meaning. So you want to make sure that if you're going to use that autocorrect or have it on, make sure that it's correcting it with the right word. You can use ignore all or add for authors in the spell check section. This is for like names or technical terms that might be repetitive throughout your paper, so that you can see them when they're really misspelled. You could also use the find and replace for common mistakes. This is a good thing to help you if you're looking for some specific maybe character or a specific word maybe you're not supposed to use. You could put it in the find section and then go to replace with what should be correct. Of course, there is a grammar check in Word, and this can be useful to draw the attention to your grammatical issues or awkward sentences. However, one thing you have to keep in mind is that you are smarter than the computer in most cases here. It doesn't know or doesn't always know exactly what you're trying to say, so you can go with its suggestions, but if it doesn't seem right, then you can ignore them. Of course, one of the things that we try is getting other readers Okay, so this is definitely a good thing for you when you're going to proofread, is sometimes we need someone else to read it for us. So you can ask a friend to help, maybe a teacher, classmates, which is something that we do with our peer reviews, family members, someone who knows about your topic, or someone who doesn't know, someone basically from a different targeted audience or someone from that targeted audience. So actually just more than one person to read it is always a great idea. Grammar and style. So of course you can use any grammar book. You can also use Purdue Owl. Purdue Owl is a great source to help, and honestly I use it a lot and use a lot of the examples that I see there. So Purdue Owl is Purdue University's online writing lab. And so you could go there, just type in Purdue Owl in Google and it'll come up. They have great suggestions, examples, grammar style. They also have it for MLA and APA if you need that in the future. You can check for common errors, or you should be checking for common errors. I should restate that. Look for missing words, letters, apostrophes. Look for repetition and redundancy throughout your essay, because of course there are going to be spots where we're going to be repetitive, for example, the conclusion, but we want to make sure that we're not too repetitive in other areas where we shouldn't. Check for run-on sentences and comma splices as well. Make sure you've included and followed the proper MLA format, and if you need help with that, you've got the guides that we have for that as well. Check for verb tense, past, present, and future, and point of view. So making sure that if you're telling a story in the past, that you're staying in the past, or in the present or the future, you're staying in that as well. And then point of view, making sure that if you're going with first person throughout the entire essay, then that's what you should stick with. Or if it's third person that you have to go with, make sure you're sticking with that throughout the essay as well. So those are some of the proofreading strategies that can help you and that you should do before turning in any of your essays.